Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffery Combs.
Jeffery Combs, President and Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Welcome everyone to For Tuesday. I will let the Facebook Live populate. Here is the syllabus for today's Facebook Live. The topic is knowing versus doubt. Welcome everyone. My privilege and pleasure to be here with you on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. I am going over here and I'm going to pull out a very famous book called Truth versus Falsehood by David Hawkins. My books for today are The Spontaneous Healing of Belief. TC, how are you this afternoon? Good to connect with you, TC. Aaron Knight, blessings to all. Welcome, everyone. See, that I knew that was going to pop up there. Truth versus falsehood is the topic of one, good afternoon, Henry, of one of David Hawkins' books. Look how big this book is. This is Hawkins' biggest book that I own in my library. It is 500 pages. This, on the other hand, is Greg Braden's book, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief. The topic for my content today is knowing versus doubt. Being in the know, in the now. And TC says she is doing very good. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My privilege and pleasure to be here with you on For Tuesday. Welcome. I want to let the Facebook Live populate and then move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. The first topic on my syllabus here today is what is doubt? Right down there. What is doubt? Doubt is the space between fear and faith. It means you're in and you're out, you do and you don't, you know and you don't know. It's duality. It's force and counterforce. It's black and white. It's good and bad. It's right and wrong. It's the duality. It means you know and you don't know. It's a very safe place to hang out. And that's where many people live, in a space called doubt. Deviani, so good to see you this evening. Tracy Wilford, good to see you. Thank you for sending me that top tier content. I appreciate that. So doubt is the space that many people live. It's a place called uncertainty. It's disbelief. It's not in belief. The spontaneous healing of belief. Belief means sense of certainty. I've been teaching belief systems since the early 90s as I started to build my own culture. And belief means that you know. And when you're in the know, you're not in doubt. You're not in the analytical, egoic mind, the trauma bonds that we continue to hold on to. And you're not in the panic patterns. So a panic pattern is a new term I'm going to start using frequently. A panic pattern is a pattern where you cut off the amygdala of the brain and the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve actually goes out of the brain and it affects the coccyx, and you buckle. It's a very, very interesting state. The vagus nerve exits the brain, the stem of the brain, and it goes all the way down and affects your coccyx. That's what happens when you're in panic patterns. That's what happens in fight or flight. It means you get overwhelmed. You flex and you flinch. So it's very unconscious. This is my right hand. So I'm going to drop my right shoulder and raise. I'm going to drop my right and raise. I'm going to drop like this, and I'm going to down like this. I drop my left, raise my right. That's a panic pattern. It means I'm in fight or flight. It's a reflex. Letting go is the ability to separate your feelings from those reflexes. That's why my content is content that no one else shares with you on how to change the reflexes. Now, you can read great content on the brain, but when it comes to addictions are a reflex based on a set of emotions that are unresolved. Unresolved means you make peace with them. You become honest with the situation. You have clarity instead of living in the I don't know. Now, this is a very interesting term that many people say over and over. If I had a big whiteboard, I'd do it for you, but I'll just spell it out for you. I-D-O-N-T-K-N-O-W. I don't know. Americans, Canadians, and Australians frequently insert these three words in a sentence. They end sentences with I don't know. They change the version of it. I-D-U-N-N-O. They run it into two words. I don't know. D-U-N-N-O. I don't know. I don't know. And so it's like a comma for many people walking around the planet not knowing. When you're not knowing, you're in doubt. And this is what creates anxiety about money, anxiety about emotional relationships, anxiety about spiritual relationships, anxiety about intimate relationships, because you don't know if you're good enough. You don't know if you can pull it off. You don't know if you're capable of it. You're living in shame of what someone might find out about you. They might find out that you got a DUI one time. They might find out that you stole from a store when you were a kid. They might find out that you were arrested for drugs in your teens and 20s. They might find out that you were sexually violated or abused. People might find out that you're damaged or broken. Or this is the analytical egoic mind, the ego that holds on to trauma bonds and panic patterns. A panic pattern is that reflex. It's the fight or flight mechanism of outer body experience. And so there's no connection to the amygdala, the right brain, the limbic brain, and then we tend to live in the analytical egoic mind and the reptilian brain that sees the lions and the tigers. And that's why so many people live in anxiety, fear, and doubt. And doubt is an elevated state where people actually graduate above anxiety and fear, and they're in doubt. Doubt's a higher energy because doubt is a know and a don't know. It's a do and don't, am and am not. So it's the state of uncertainty. However, it's a more relaxed energy because it's an avoidance energy. The intensity isn't high, the cardio cocktail isn't as high, but it's easy to become addicted to doubt because it keeps you safe. And so the payoff of being safe, now this is a very challenging situation for people who don't grasp what it means to be sober. So there's a payoff that an addict creates by being an addict. And until the individual addict can admit that they have a payoff from avoiding life, from staying in dysfunctional relationships, from being codependent, from being addicted to a set of emotions, it keeps people safe. It keeps them in doubt. In doubt, there's no risk. And in risk, there's no reward. And if you create the reward once, that means you do it over again. But the ego isn't certain if you can do it twice in a row. That's why many people will say, I'd hire you to be my coach, but I'm not sure if I hired you, if I'd be able to perform admirably, or that's what the ego says. I've had so many people reach out to me, and I'd like to get that 20-minute coaching session, or I'd really like to hire you, but. If the pain was great enough, there is no but, and if the cause were great enough, people would find a way. I completely understand this. That's why I'm in no doubt of why people do and don't hire me. People don't hire me because of the anxiety they have about the outcome. They don't hire me because they don't have the resources. I understand that. I've been in places where I didn't have the resources. However, a resourceful person will find the resources. And they will overcome the doubt. Well, I'm not sure if I could find the money, or I'm not sure if I could follow through. Once again, I understand all of this. I'm not in doubt of it. When you understand, you're in the know. You're in the now. And in the now, the energy changes. The morphinogenic field of energy that's surrounding you starts to become clearer. It's white light. It's pink. It's violet. For those of you who can see auras, and that's a whole skill in itself. I've been to many psychic conventions and intuitive conventions where you can actually have your picture taken and you can actually see your aura as you emanate and transmute this aura. But when you're in doubt, the aura and the energy is very low. It's gray, it's black, and there's no clarity in it. And you can tell how people are in doubt. In doubt, many people stop and start in their sentence structure. And they go down another rabbit hole. That's why in a coaching session, I'll say, finish your first sentence while I ask the questions in a sequence, assisting the people to facilitate letting go so they can communicate clearly. That's why clients coach with me for a year, 2, 3, 4. Raise your hands if you coach with me at least 2 years. And the reason that people coach with me 2 years is because of the degree of difficulty for most of society to let go of the trauma bonds, the panic patterns, and the ego that wants to hold on to the pain body. And when you begin to understand this, the pleasure isn't worth the pain, you will begin to facilitate letting go. Letting go is a skill. It is an absolute skill set. There's a mechanism to it. And if you don't master it, you will continue to relapse. I'm a chronic relapser in recovery. I relapsed 7 days a week. I would for years, I drank vodka, scotch, and any other situations that would put me in a state of dysfunction, that would put me in a state of taking the edge off. And as an addict in recovery, over a 10-year period. It was a 10-year period that I began to learn the mechanism of letting go. And then in my 16th year of recovery, I found David Hawkins, which virtually changed the game of how I understood the skill set of letting go, which is a separation between a feeling and an event, so that I am no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. I started reading Louise Hay in 1988, couldn't grasp it. The book was on my shelf for a few years, but in the early 90s, I crossed the bridge with Louise Hay, John Bradshaw, Wayne Dyer, Barbara DeAngelis, and a whole host of exceptional speakers. Eventually, I had the opportunity to share the stage with Barbara DeAngelis, Mark Victor Hansen, Jim Rohn, John Assaraf, and Joe Dispenza. I hired every one of those people to speak to me, to speak for me at events, and was able to set in their content and really learn some of their content about mind-body connections. When you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings, the separation begins. And so you move into a I know state. There's a world-class dog trainer on today's Facebook Live. Her name is Barbara Williams. Barbara is a world-class trainer of Schnauzers. That's a specific breed, but Barbara could train any dog she wanted to. Barbara's a dog whisperer. She knows how to communicate with dogs. She's a dog breeder. I've known Barbara's one of my very first clients. Barbara goes back to 1999 with me. I started my coaching business in the fall of 1998, September of 1998. Barbara was an early hire in 1999. Barbara's been to my home, been to my commercial property. She's watched my evolution. She's participated in it. She's hired me numerous times over that whole time frame. Now, if Barbara telegraphed that she didn't know how to train a dog, or she started to lose her capacities for that profession, the dogs would know it. They would be able to read it. They would be able to feel it. They would be able to sense it. And then she couldn't command the value that she had in the free market. And that happens to people. They go bankrupt. They lose a business. They lose their edge. And they go from the penthouse to the outhouse. A person who's in high consciousness has bounce back ability quickly because they live in the know. They live in the now. And they know that if they've done it once, they can do it again. But many people who reach that peak of success and then the bottom falls out of it. This is a classic statement that Americans use. Because of the market in 2008, I'm like, the market in 2008? No, it's not the market in 2008. Is that many people were over leveraged in 2006, 7, and 8, and they bought into the banking system of over leveraging themselves in the mortgage industry that eventually collapsed. And it wasn't because of the market, it's because of the seduction. And if your dialogue with money is not conducive to the creation of it, when people are handing out money that doesn't exist and you're paying interest on it, that is called a Ponzi. And when in that Ponzi, when people are handing out free money, and you've watched it happen here in the last few years, someone has to pay for it on the back end. Now, the Federal Reserve is a very interesting institution, and I know a lot about them. I've been studying them for years. One of my acquaintances, a very good acquaintance of mine, G. Edward Griffin, wrote the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. I know. So when you say I know, when you begin to say I know, I'd like to, I need to, you need to, or you're committed. Do you know? But if you don't know, then you don't know. And if you don't know, you're in doubt. And doubt keeps you safe. It's your foot's on the dock and the foot's on the boat, and there's no commitment, which fulfills being non-committed. So commitment phobia, that's where a large percent of the world is. It shows up in relationships, it shows up in businesses, it shows up in the inability to make a bed, it shows up in the inability to follow through, and that's what many people are starters. They're starters, but they're not finishers. A finisher is someone who's in the know. They know the outcome. They know that it's going to require X number of communications to create an outcome. And so they're not disappointed. I encounter rookie, novice salespeople 7 days a week who are discouraged. So which means they're in doubt. They get discouraged over a few no's, K, and that's an N-O-W. In reality, the prospects aren't telling you no, they're letting you know they're not interested. They're blowing you off. They're telling you they want to think about it. They're telling you they'll get back to you. They're telling you they don't have the resources. They're telling you they want to talk to the significant other. I had someone recently say, I want to run this by Mrs. Smith. I mean, what does that actually mean? Mrs. Smith, is that the blow-up doll in the closet? Or what actually is that? I mean, Mrs. Smith, is that a pie? I mean, is that Mrs. I mean, who is Mrs. Smith? I mean, that was a very interesting objection, although I have heard it a few times when someone says, Mr. Combs or Mr. Stewart. I want to run this by Mr. Stewart. I mean, is that your husband or is that the butler? I mean, who is that Mr.? I mean, that's, once again, is that Sister Mr.? I mean, that's how many people do that. Mr. It could be Mr. the band. I mean, what Kyrie, they want to run that by that. I mean, this is how you start to understand. So when you're in the know, you can unequivocally tell the people that aren't in the know. When you're in faith, and you're in the know, you can hear the doubters, and they communicate. They stop and start in a conversation. They go down the different rabbit hole in the conversation. They don't answer questions, and they tell stories and riddles. And when it comes to commitment time, they have multiple stories. When you're a sales professional and you ask someone a commitment question, if you'll just sit there and be silent and file your nails like this, and blow the dust on the prospect, if you'll just sit there as cool as the other side of the pillow with ice in the veins and you will listen to people, you will listen to them lie to you. Now, they lie. They don't even know they're lying, but they lie because they're liars, and they lie because they can't commit, and they lie because they're codependent. And they don't mean to lie, but they lie because they can't commit. So they start to get wound up and like JoJo, the Indian circus boy and girl, and you're asking them a commitment question and they give one excuse and then two excuses and three excuses, and they actually think you buy it. And they actually are so addicted themselves that they say they're going to get back with you, and they actually think they do, and they feel safe because they're in doubt. And they couldn't commit because they're in doubt. And if you're in doubt when they're in doubt, then you're going to chase these people. And now the chase is on. And so you will chase, you're like JoJo, the Indian circus boy. You think you have this prospect and you think he's homie, your prospect, and you're chasing them down the rabbit hole. And these people never buy because they weren't committed. But because you're not committed and you're in doubt, you miss that sign. You miss that telegraph. You miss that clue. You missed that tell. Now, when you become a professional in this process of being an entrepreneur, a business owner, a man or a woman of influence or affluence, a truther, a seeker of truth, a man or a woman of knowledge, a man or a woman in the know, in the now. When you become that man or woman, people contact you and they buy from you like this. I had a client said, I know it's time for me to re-up last night and I'm ready to hire you. That happened to me also Saturday. That happens to me frequently because those are called reputation sales. People will buy from you because of your reputation, because of your service and value. And because you're out there in the jungle performing good deeds, random acts of kindness, you're offering hands up to people, occasionally a handout, and you're out there in the world of free enterprise, and you're absolutely developing your character by delivering great service and great value with no expectation. You're completely unattached. And you don't view anything as a no. You view it as one more conversation in the banquet of life. And in that non-attachment, you can easily and effortlessly let people go. I'm 65 years young. I've been in this process since I was a teenager. Sales job number one, Time Life Books, 19 years old. Denver, Colorado, phone room, gigantic headset. I was making quota. I was bonusing the quota system while I was smoking marijuana in the morning, selling in the afternoon. Sales job number two, radio station. Sales job number three, TV station. Sales job number four, it wasn't a job, I owned my own business. Between 22 and 31, I never had a job other than waiting tables sporadically. I owned my own businesses, selling products, services, benefits, and features, and other situations. 31, 29, Yellow Pages. It was like a PhD in selling. I mean, it was unequivocally the most valuable sales experience I ever had. I was a territory rep. I'd run a large territory. The entire state of California was my territory, and I would travel from San Diego all the way up to the Oregon border. And I would go to Eureka, California. I would go to Susanville, California, above Reno, by car, and I would stay in motels and hotels and call on customers in the small towns and small cities of California. I did that for 3 years, and I was closing 15 to 20 sales a day, 5 days a week. That was my quota. And I had to I had to extend the quota. I had to bonus the book to be able to make the commission structure. It was an absolute great experience for me. I heard every objection known to mankind in that 3-year period. So when I started my network marketing direct sales career, I was a seasoned veteran. I wasn't a novice. I always bought into the profession of selling. I wasn't someone who avoided it, and I never had rejection issues and abandonment issues. I understood real clearly that people are either going to buy or they're going to give a reason not to buy. And many people come with qualified reasons, and then there are people who will follow through, and every sale has its own sales cycle. And the more that you understand that, and the more that you let go of anxiety, fear, and doubt, and step up into your own business, your own life, your own recovery, and you step up into clarity, you begin to understand, you're in the know, in the now, then you're no longer the mind-body connection to the event that shaped the feelings. You're right here and you're right now. So you're in the conversation. Whether you're dating, mating, hiring a contractor, hiring someone to do repairs. I asked a contractor today, I said, Keith, when can you be on my property? Let me get back with Dylan and I'll get back to you. What's a good time to call him? I mean, did I ask him any of this? I didn't ask any of this. I asked him when, and this is what storytellers do. They tell stories. This is what a storyteller does. A storyteller tells a story because a storyteller isn't certain. That's the difference between hiring a great contractor and hiring someone who's going to tell you what you want to hear. And the contracting industry is filled with contractors who overcommit, overpromise, and underdeliver. And the contracting industry is also filled with the like any profession, the law of the few who can commit, who can deliver, and who are top tier. And I have attracted a few of those. So that's Henry just said, storytellers let the body run the brain. Colleen, so good to see you this afternoon. Heather McInnes, so good to see you. Colleen, I read your comments about your custom home. Colleen and her husband are exceptional entrepreneurs. Jason Olitsky is a world-class dentist. Colleen's also a dentist. They own a practice in Florida. Multipreneurs, own multiple businesses, and are multiple 6- and 7-figure income earners. Colleen is a closer. Closers are finishers. Colleen knows exactly what it's like to hire contractors. I mean, I saw some of the pictures. I experienced some of the same situations, Colleen. I mean, right now I had a locksmith. This was amazing. I had a locksmith tell my assistant yesterday that the lock couldn't be fixed. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. I said, let me call a welder. The locksmith said, that's impossible. No one can fix this lock. Well, I called my welder, and my welder is fixing the lock right now. And the locksmith said, nobody can fix it. And my assistant said, nobody can fix this. I go, well, that's the difference between me and them. That's why I am me, and that's why they are them, because I'm resourceful. If within one phone call, the lock is getting fixed. Once again, that's called the know. I knew who to call in the moment, on command, and the lock is in the process of being repaired. And the guy, oh, this is too old. There's no way. No one can fix this. This is a dinosaur. I go, no, it's going to get fixed, Chief. So I'll just go on down the road and find someone else. That because I am in the know in the now. Once again, this is so masterful when you master it and you're in the know. It means, and that's is ice in the veins. It's as cool as the other side of the pillow. It's swag. It's consciousness. It's recovery, and it's sobriety. When you're in sobriety, you're not in your head all day. You're not planning the next lie. You're not trying to figure out how you're going to relapse, how you're going to cover your tracks. And you're not exhausted from all these lies you tell yourself. And when you're in that space of energy, you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that have shaped your feelings. My name is Jeffery Combs. I am the president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Aaron, good to see you this afternoon. I saw Valerie on today's Facebook Live. Henry, good to see all of you here this afternoon. In Barbara Williams, thank you very much for being here this afternoon. If you are a former client or existing client and you would like to add on to your existing coaching, or you'd like to rehire me to coach you in 2022, I have a package that you can coach all year if you contact me. It is unique marketing proposition. So if you want to send me a Facebook message, I will address that very quickly, and I will get back to you very quickly. 2 books I recommend. The Spontaneous Healing of Belief. This is a game-changing book. This is a really, really big book by David Hawkins, and it's read in really small increments. You can read this book for the rest of your life. Truth versus Falsehood. Truth versus Falsehood. A very, very good book. It's a companion book of all of Hawkins' content. Have a great afternoon, everyone. I'll be back here this evening on 2 for Tuesday at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good afternoon.